Today we're comparing two of the better projectors that I've tested recently, the ULTIMEA Apollo P50 and the AURZEN Boom 3. I'll leave links down below with current pricing and more information, so let's go ahead and get started. As far as pricing goes, they're both currently on sale, $299 for the Apollo P50 versus $269 for the AURZEN Boom 3, so about $30 cheaper for the Boom 3. The size and shape are somewhat similar, although AURZEN is a little more square versus rectangle for ULTIMEA. The AURZEN Boom 3 is a little bit heavier at just over 6.1 pounds, where the ULTIMEA is just over 5.8 pounds. One advantage for ULTIMEA is you have some of the buttons there on the top, where AURZEN only has the volume knob. You've also got an adjustable foot on the bottom of the AURZEN Boom 3 versus a little bit different style of adjustable foot for ULTIMEA. They both have mounts on the bottom if you want to put these on a ceiling or tripod as well. Now, as far as the connections go, one advantage for ULTIMEA is you have an Ethernet port there on the side if you don't want to use Wi-Fi. It also has two USB ports, one HDMI port, audio video, and a headphone jack. With AURZEN, you've got two USB ports, a headphone jack, two HDMI ports there on the back. So sort of personal preference on whether you want two HDMI ports on ULTIMEA or an Ethernet port plus an audio video jack with AURZEN. Now, when it comes to the speakers or built-in audio, these two actually sound pretty good. You've got two 10-watt speakers for a total of 20 watts with ULTIMEA versus 36 watts for the Boom 3. And in person, it's pretty obvious how much different these two sound. The Boom 3 is a little louder and has better bass, so it sounds quite a bit better than ULTIMEA. Now, obviously, I think you get better sound with external speakers. Here's a quick sample of each just to give you an idea of what they sound like. But if you want the projector with better sounding speakers, you'll want to go with the AURZEN Boom 3. Megapixel on the back of the Galaxy Tab, 5 megapixel on the front. With the iPad, you've got a 12 megapixel wide angle on the ultra wide on the front. One big advantage for the iPad is you can shoot up to 4K 60 frames per second for video recording. There's a lot of things to consider between these two, including what features they have. Both have Bluetooth. They're both native 1080p resolution. The Apollo P50 works best on a screen up to 120 inches versus 300 for the AURZEN Boom 3. Both projectors have a fully sealed optical engine, which prevents dust and reduces black spots. Software-wise, they're going to be somewhat similar. They both have Wi-Fi and built-in apps like Netflix, YouTube, and Prime Video, so you could use both of these without adding additional streaming devices. The remote controls are also somewhat similar. You can see you have app shortcuts down towards the bottom for both remotes. And a nice thing is you have the ability to adjust focus right on the remote control for both projectors. So probably going to be personal preference on which one is better. I feel like both do a pretty good job. Both of these also have auto keystone correction and autofocus. You can move these around without having to do anything, but you can also go in and adjust the keystone correction and focus manually as well on both projectors. I might lean slightly towards ULTIMEA on these two features, but it's close enough that I don't think one is drastically better than the other. One advantage for the ULTIMEA is the fan noise is a little bit less at about 61 or 62 decibels versus about 65 for the AURZEN Boom 3. You'll notice most of the air comes from the side of the Boom 3 versus on the bottom of the Apollo P50. Probably one of the more important things to consider is going to be the screen or picture quality. AURZEN says 500 ANSI lumens versus 800 ANSI lumens for ULTIMEA, but it's pretty obvious in person. The projector on the left seems to have a little better overall image quality in most scenarios. Pretty similar contrast between the two for the projector on the left, which is the AURZEN Boom 3. The Apollo P50 is on the right. I also noticed with ULTIMEA, this is the only 1080p projector where it let me switch my Xbox Series X to 4K resolution, and it didn't kick back to 1080p, so I'd give ULTIMEA a slight advantage there. I might lean slightly towards AURZEN for gaming just because the brighter screen, so you can see more details, but how smooth the gameplay is actually really close, so it's probably a toss-up on which is the better projector for gaming. Also use an HDMI adapter on both projectors as well. Although I don't feel like you can go wrong with either one as far as screen quality goes. It may just be personal preference, but for me, I like the screen a little bit better on the Boom 3 by AURZEN. Again, some of this is going to be personal preference and what features you're looking for, because there's quite a bit that's similar between these two, but there's a couple things that might make you lean towards one over the other. And in this case, I feel like you get better audio and a little better picture quality, not to mention it seems brighter with the AURZEN Boom 3 over the ULTIMEA Apollo P50.